Loss on the homestead. July can be a really tough time of year with sheep. Here we have an amazing healthy ram lamb that has lost his battle with worms. July has to be the worst month to be a sheep farmer. July is when the Barber Pole worm is at its highest, its most vindictive, its most nasty. And this year, to be honest, we thought we were doing really, really well. I won't lie, we've lost sheep to the Barber Pole worm before, only lambs, but that's still a loss on the farm. And this year we got the ewes bred early so that the lambs were going to be bigger and healthier and better before this season came upon us. And it still didn't really make a difference. We got them separated. We did kind of everything that you'd think would tick the boxes. And to be honest, Milo's here was going to be a ram that stayed with us. We had chosen him to be a breeder this fall and to stay with the herd. And he was in amazing condition, even now. I mean, he is a big, healthy ram lamb, but he still lost this battle with the Barber Pole worm. So this case is not a case of neglect. This animal was not left out in the pasture for months at a time without being looked at. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, because there are some times where that works well. These animals were checked. We've been checking the FAMACHA, am I saying it right? FAMACHA score in their eyes, looking for red lids, and it happened quick this year. We were seeing tons of red, tons of pink, and then bam, as soon as we got that humid, moist air, it was worm time. So it's discouraging. I will say it, that, you know, you can do your best and it's still not enough.
Well, today's video is not really a pleasant one because, to be honest, if you are homesteading, raising animals, food in general, you're going to have days that are unpleasant. That's a reality, unfortunately, no matter what you do. But I want to run through some things in addition to the FAMACHA that we do with the sheep to try to minimize it, because basically we've been raising them long enough. We know mid-July to mid-August in particular is the worst time of year. It is the time of year where if there was a time that would put you off raising sheep, that is it. Absolutely, without a doubt. In the case of these young ones, this is all of our 2023 lambs, ram lambs, ewe lambs. They were already weaned before we moved them into this pasture, and we moved them from the mums on purpose because yes, this pasture has had sheep in it in the spring of 2023, but when you're looking at pasture rotation, and I know there will be some comments about this in relation to Barber Pole worm, but this has had a pretty good break until the sheep have come back. So this was sort of our best area at the moment to move them to try to really monitor them, because the one real big negative in my mind, as friendly and as cute as they look in a lot of our videos, sheep are not easy to handle. This is not an animal that you just walk out into the pasture and put a lead rope on like we would with our horses or some people with their dairy cattle and you can do what you want. It's always a bit of a fight, and this time of year you're going to have that fight over and over and over because you've got to bring them in potentially even daily to sort of look at those things. But it is amazing this year through the sequence of weather and weather patterns that we have had. We had a really wet spring, then we had a dry sort of late spring, early summer, and now we're back into the wet. And as soon as that, like what Stephanie said, as soon as we got back into that kind of humid, which is typical of the Great Lakes region, and wet weather with the heat, boom, the problem was back. So this doesn't just go away. So this pasture area isn't quite belly high, but they're not eating this right down to the ground. That is important with the worms, because if the sheep have to eat right to the ground level, they're basically increasing the quantity of eggs consumed. Our pastures tend to be longer. They tend to be like, this is looking quite lush, for lack of a better way to put it.
So we've got Precious here. We're not going to go through every one for you, but I'm going to show you what is the problem. See that? She still has a tiny, tiny bit of pink compared to some of them, but she is very, very pale in those eyes. And that for us is now into serious conditions, which require chemicals.
for us at this point anyways. Which does bring into a whole nother discussion on parasite resistance to the wormers.
There we go. But that's basically it. We're still going to keep monitoring this, but as I've said, this happened fast. We've been checking them every 4 or 5 days, and they're not in bad condition. They're round.
Of course, one thing about sheep that you hear all the time is that they hide their illnesses, which is partially true. But if you know what to look for, you usually can see it. And if you're checking regularly, you can usually see it as well. So we do want to stress the fact that even though we've got some issues going on and some pale eyes, etc., and another lamb caught, and here's the daily fight to do the check, because not everybody's friendly.
All right, so here we have Winnie. And Winnie is showing us a sign that is actually very, very bad and very visual, even if you can't get near your sheep. Winnie has developed bottle jaw.
This is in sort of early stages.
Yeah. Now, bottle jaw can get quite big and obvious. We are catching this on the first day of noticing it. But you'll see a big liquidy pouch here, especially when they've had their head down for a while eating. And look at her eyes.
Very pale.
Very, very pale. And it's okay.
The fight continues.
She's like, I don't want it. And then as soon as you give it to them, they're like, oh, it's kind of good. It's apple flavored. We'll talk in a moment about what we give them. This is Smokey. He's my favorite ram. And again, Smokey is exceptionally pale in the eyes. No bottle jaw forming. And Smokey's actually already been wormed. So we're not going to worm him again today. But we are going to keep a really, really good eye on him. And make sure, because he's another one that is staying with the flock.
As we're kind of watching them eat some of this hay here, we do want to stress again, this is not an intervention at the 11th hour where we haven't been doing our due diligence to see what's going on. And of course, some of them make it look easy.
She's huge. She's huge.
Yeah, she's a good size one.
Oh, actually, she's still got a bit of pink, but we're still giving it. Because there's no way that one has and the others don't.
So where I was going with this is not the first day coming out here, doing these checks, administering something if we need to, etc. This is like day 4 or 5 that we're into now. And despite our best efforts, the unfortunate reality is you still are going to lose some sheep. One thing you'll hear a lot about is breeding for worm tolerance, and you can absolutely do it, but it's not an easy task, and it's definitely not an easy task to do on a small homestead in isolation from everybody else. I.e., if not the entire sheep raising community is moving in the same direction, your efforts when you bring new stuff in, etc., are really going to not amount to very much, for lack of a better way to put it. Now, with Icelandic sheep, they are not known to be resistant to the barber pole worm because in their native land, Iceland, they're not exposed to it. Here, unfortunately, in North America, that parasite is everywhere. And whether you're raising sheep or goats, that's a very serious parasite.
Winnie here is our next biggest concern, I think. She does a lot of just standing, looking dopey. Again, more signs that you have a problem. Oh, gosh, you're huge too. Okay, Micah, let's see what you got for us. Micah's got quite pink eyes still.
Not nearly as pink
as they should be, but considering the contamination we have right now with all these young ones, you are doing amazing. That's not all fur. There's a lot of fur, don't get me wrong, but, oh, you like that? Look at the tail wag. All right, I'm going to be right in front of you. Oh, God, you're huge. Come here. Oh, we've got some big babies this year. Hi, you. Hi. Oh, I know. Oh, can you see that there?
There is some pink tinge there.
There is a pink tinge still with her. One thing to keep track of, and this is what we are doing now with our videoing right now, is who seems to have a little bit of tolerance. Even though we're treating everybody because it's here and we know now it's in the pasture, we are making note of the ones that still have the pink eyes, because that's a strong genetic thing if they have a bit of tolerance.
We toy with this every single year, where we keep the Icelandics because A, we really like the taste of the meat, so that's a unique quality that makes it worth having them. But B, we like the fleece, the quality of that fleece. But when we get to this season, we always kind of put our heads in our hands and go, should we switch to raising a hair sheep that is more parasite resistant? Because the big winning thing for us on the sheep front is their ability to very economically turn food items, i.e. pasture, which ironically is the very thing that causes the issue with the worms, but converting pasture into a food item, in this case meat, better than most of the other alternatives, whether it's cattle, goats, pigs, etc. All of those animals have their merits, but in the very specific way we kind of look at this, the sheep are number one. Unfortunately, they have that really big caveat. And the catch.
Goody! Oh,
and the
gosh.
fight.
Goody! Oh, you are feisty too. I know. Oh, she's got pink.
Another catch. That actually didn't go too bad.
Venus is tougher because she's pulled, so there's no horns. Very pale. Very pale. Right? You and your sister are both very pale-eyed.
Doing a lot of talking in this video, but one thing, this is very much a problem, at least in our flock, of the young sheep. We do find, and you will read this in a lot of literature too, that as the sheep get older, and if you are practicing pasture rotation, they tend to build up some resistance. I'm not really sure on the science behind that, but it does seem to kind of work out that way. If they make it through this part of their life, a lot of these sheep will probably go on to be pretty resistant. On that sort of topic too, there are other things you can do to reduce the impacts of barber pole worm, but I think, at least from our reading and our experience, it's a tough one because none of these are a magic bullet. And some of the things could be, as you can see behind me there's a mineral lick. That mineral lick is something that we can give the Icelandics that you can't necessarily give, and this is controversial too, but you can't necessarily give other sheep because it has copper in it. Now, copper does negatively affect a lot of invertebrates, including intestinal worms, and also including the barber pole worm. However, you have to be very careful with copper and sheep because the vast majority of sheep breeds, it's basically toxic for them, which is a bit of a catch-22. Fortunately, with the Icelandics, we can give them that sort of mixed mineral, trace mineral block, which contains a higher level of copper than what most sheep should probably ever have. So that's helpful. There are things such as garlic, diatomaceous earth, just keeping up on minerals in general.
Apple cider vinegar.
Apple cider vinegar. These are all things that you can incorporate into their diet that should help. The problem is, like most natural or home type remedies, they're not a silver bullet. So the other big tool, of course, is pasture rotation and pasture management. And that is a whole nother topic that I'm not going to get into in this video because anybody who's followed us for a while does know we rotate these sheep. And we rotate them quite as much as we can. And we're always trying to break new areas, etc., so that we can rotate them more and breaking our pastures into smaller chunks, etc. Time for the next catch.
Maybe.
They're getting wise.
Well, we're down to the wilder ones. He's got bottle jaw. I see another one. Whoops. I see another one with the bottle jaw. And you're going to be a pain in the butt to catch. Catch your sister first.
The fight is real.
Oh, she's got pink eyes. Quite pink. Actually, the pinkest of all of them.
Well,
Yet your brother has bottle jaw. Go
that's
figure.
Positive. Some people do worm kind of on a regular schedule. We don't. So today seems like quite a dosing, but this doesn't have to happen every year because some years we do have individuals that actually do seem to have some extra resistance. And so that's where it is important to be checking the eyelids as you're doing the checks and just see. But unfortunately this year, they all seem to have the issue.
Oh God, you're big. Easy, easy. Hold on. Oh.
He has a little bit of it.
Oh, he's very pale. And you're big, so I'm going to give you a little extra. There you go. What are you doing? Who does he's left? Oh, just the other gray one. Is that him there?
Honestly, we're making this look relatively easy because as you can see, I've got one hanging out with me. I can't even get him in the film.
How's Smokey doing? He helping you?
Yeah, I can't get close enough to a helper sheep.
So when it comes to treating the barber pole worm, when we have to get into actual wormer paste and non-natural methods, we usually would use a Fenbendazole. This is usually enough to do the trick, but this year, because we have such a infestation, I guess you would say it, we are concerned about losses. We have actually gone to Quest after. So all of these sheep have been treated with the Fenbendazole already, and that still didn't help with the one that we lost. So now we've upped our game to the Quest, which is kind of a kill all worms type thing. So now we've gotten a dose of that into everybody except for that little gray bugger over there. So we're going to kind of wrap this video up out here, and we're going to try and get these sheep in the barn and see if we can catch him, because I really want everybody to be treated.
Well, we managed to get him out here. So through a little bit of stealthy stalking and quick grab. But pretty much that's the video for today. It's a reality that we have to deal with for raising sheep. We do a lot of things to minimize the impact, to avoid this situation. I'm going to say it's probably almost impossible unless you have an exorbitant amount of land to really avoid having this issue, at least if you live in our area. So on that note, I'm not sure this is super educational, but stay tuned because there will be some updates on how everything does. And we kind of started this off with the bad news of the day. So hopefully we don't have any more bad news.